So we are back on the panel. We have the panelist Umesh, co-founder Davax, Tushar, CEO, founder, Consultancy Ventures. We have Tejasha Patnis, co-founder, eTrio. Vivek Kundlani, founder, CEO, Flexo. Before we begin with all the founders, already they introduced themselves. I want with Tushar to introduce himself before we go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Rajan. Myself, Tushar Kansal from Consultancy Ventures. So we are an investment management firm and also an angel network of 38 high net worth individuals. We help guide investments across tech and non-tech companies, but on the tech side, up to $2 million, we are that's our sweet spot. I've been personally in corporates like Deloitte and Touche, Brand Capital, headed treasury at MTS India, and was CFO with Distribution Logistics. That's a company owned by Guggenheim Partners. So happy to be here and be talking about this very important topic. And thank you so much.
So I want a one-liner brief again from all the founders. What exactly you are into: co-working, co-living, or hybrid? Just one-liners. So already done the intro. Just one liner, then we can start this session. Starting with Umesh.
Sure, Rajan. So Devex is a managed and serviced office space provider spread across 5 cities with catering to around 2.5 lakh square feet of area across India.
Vivek?
Flexo is a one-stop shop for co-working spaces and flexible offices. As a specialist aggregation platform, we help space seekers find the best co-working space for their requirements.
Tejasha, you could hear me? One-liner.
Yes. Yeah. So Trios is co-working space. We are operational in Pune, and we have 5 centers.
Okay, thank you. So to start with the first question, start with Umesh. How does the pandemic has really affected the co-working business, especially the last 12 months?
So if I compare year on year with 1920 to 2021 on books, obviously it has impacted a lot, but it has also given us a new perspective to think and probably put across things in a different perspective. The revenue did take a good dip in the first quarter, obviously because of lockdown. The second quarter, obviously, since nobody was coming back to office spaces, we had 0 newer clients joining us from the startup and the SMEs segment. But since we are a hybrid workspace provider wherein 50% of our inventory is consumed by larger enterprises, they are bounded with the contracts. They are bounded to stay with me for a longer duration because of the customized offerings that we have given them. So their revenues did help us stay afloat, and the consumption of the office space was not there, but the revenues from their side was flowing in. What happened in Q3 and Q4, I think that has totally changed the entire perspective for the industry across. What we are learning in the current times is that the upcoming year or two would be the year that would be cherished by the entire industry. Co-working as an industry was not taken seriously up till 2018, 2017. Things started to move gradually into different directions. And now it has taken a sudden uptick, and we can definitely expect there would be a V-shaped recovery in terms of the co-working industry, because larger enterprises are now coming back on ground, consolidating their real estate requirement, consolidating their needs of office space, focusing only on one cities. They are looking at distributed workspace solutions. They are looking at work near home solutions. So their consumption is going to increase, but it would be spread across multiple cities, which earlier was concentrated on one specific city. So the headquarter is now going to break up into multiple real estate consumption into different varied cities. So So this existing quarter and the previous one has kind of paved a way as to what we would be doing for the next 2 years.
That's great, Umesh. Vivek, you start. How the pandemic has really affected.
I think Umesh has covered that beautifully. Just to add to some points from an aggregate standpoint, one of the things that has happened is that a lot of smaller players, local players, unfortunately, couldn't survive the impact of the storm, and even some of the larger operators had to give up certain locations that were not feasible. So overall, what happened is that the supply of co-working space shrunk a little. But now, on the other hand, as Umesh pointed out, we are seeing a V-shaped recovery, and the demand is coming from a much larger segment. So you have this dichotomy where on one hand the supply has gone down, and on the other hand the demand is going to ramp up very rapidly. So it's going to be a great time to be in the space, and co-working operators are already looking at expanding their footprint, and in terms of both seats and in terms of the cities that they are present in. Another thing that has happened is that the penetration of co-working has gotten deeper. So we are also seeing a lot of interest and expansion of co-working spaces in tier 2, tier 3 cities. So this is something that is here to stay. Although the impact was severe, like any other industry, co-working got severely impacted for a short period of time. But the industry is recovering well at the moment.
Thank you, Vivek. Tejasa, you tell me your.
Yes. So I think here, co-working space has always been a asset-heavy model, and the most challenging part was, your expenses were fixed, but there were no new leads. But I think that has pretty much improved, and what I have learned is going forward, we will definitely need to reduce on the asset part. We need to keep it a very light model. And also, you also, whoever, as Vivek rightly mentioned, that companies who always were working from a traditional or conventional offices are now considering coming back to co-working spaces, or they are exploring this option. We also see that there are a lot of partnerships going on between landlords and the co-working partners. So that's pretty much going to take off this year, and there'll be new probably a rev share models that will be explored this year. I think it's going to be pretty good. So it was hit. Co-working industry has definitely taken a hit, but what I believe is, the plus point, if you look at the hospitality industry had zero revenue when there was a lockdown. On the other hand, co-working industry, definitely had a chance to retain the clients they had. So I think that was a plus point I would look at.
So all the founders are bullish on the co-working market prospects, especially this year, I guess, right? So as a venture investor point of view, Tushar, you share your points.
Sir, I don't own a co-working space, but from an investment perspective, I feel that there is a lot of synergy with which co-working spaces and co-living spaces should find with health tech companies. There is a real estate aggregator company of Canada called RE/MAX, and what we did was we connected them with a robotic company from Gurgaon, which has created robots for disinfection of buildings. So these kind of synergies are there. Then spaces have to be less dense, which means that because it's a health requirement. So I guess that at some point in time there would be a premium on less dense working spaces. Then I feel that there would be a rise in B2B and enterprise clients as compared to individuals. and new business models will come in. Like companies will be more concerned about where their employees are staying and coming from, and employees will prefer to live close to corporate parks and CBDs to avoid long distance travels within the cities on public transport. This means that integrated campuses will start to happen, and we are seeing that integrated campuses will pick up. Also, there would be more organized spaces as compared to unorganized spaces. And as discussed by a lot of panelists here, proximity to workplace trend will increase. From a strategic perspective, I feel that there would be a rise in acquisitions because the organized players would like to have more locations under one umbrella to cater to the requirement of segregated workforce. And also, I feel that within hostels and hospitality, there would be a trend to provide for co-working space with the proper social distancing and health norms. So, this is my view about this industry as a.
Thank you, Tushar. So, based on the inputs from all the founders, we found the growth prospects are bullish in 2021, and pandemic has taken a back seat because of the vaccine has arrived, so people started becoming norms. So we go to the next question again. I want all of you to give a snapshot advantages, how corporates are rethinking on office strategies, especially flex spaces. Umesh, you can start with.
Sure. So I think everybody on the panel is pretty much vocal on the fact that larger corporates and enterprises are now considering or evaluating managed office space operators or co-working space operators as a proposition to consume their real estate. Prior to COVID, whenever we had it, so how we deal is internally is that we categorize the different set of clients. So category A is basically your MNCs and enterprises where the head office is outside India and they are already exposed to the culture of co-working. So the adoption from their side towards consuming real estate via co-working spaces was evident even before pre-COVID scenario. So the likes of Microsoft, Google's used to consume larger inventory with the operators like the WeWorks and the SmartWorks of the world. Post-COVID, what has happened is the category C clients. So category B is the younger entrepreneurs which are now taking or continuing the reins of their forefathers and continuing on the business. If you create awareness in them, they can be a probable client of yours. Pre-COVID, the category C clients, which are the traditional companies who had a belief that the investment and the fit out cost in the office space has to be incurred by them. The office is either supposedly to be owned by them, or if it is leased, it has to be for a longer duration. Now, these organizations, because of COVID, they started looking for features like zero investment into fit outs, higher flexibility of increasing or decreasing the inventory, zero headache on managing the operations. So once they evaluated their needs, the problem statements, they found out that there's one industry which they have been evidently ignoring pre-COVID, which is the co-working space providers. And hence, what everybody in the panel and probably across the country, everybody is vouching on the same lines, echoing the same voice that larger enterprises, which wasn't a chunk of market size pre-COVID, is going to be part of this consumption of leasing of real estate space. So the base of co-working industry, which was just meager 16% of the entire leasing industry, I think that should increase in the next couple of years, at least by 10-15%. And once that increases, obviously the pie gets segregated into all of the operators which are providing efficient, sanitized, healthy as per the required measures by the corporates, they would be the ones who would be winning that all. Just a single thought process. Tushar bhai mentioned that there is a consolidation expected in this industry. I have a different feeling to this. Up till 2020, majority of the wealth that was deployed in the startup segment, it wasn't into co-working. There were only few operators across the country who had raised external funds at a larger corpus. So the wealth is yet to be deployed in the industry. Consolidation would come into picture only when there's good sizable bankable assets lying with the larger operators who would drive the consolidation, which I strongly feel would be happening about 2 years down the line, when this 2 years journey would help them create more wealth for their internal organization.
Thank you, Umesh. So, Vivek, you are into Fluxo Spaces, or maybe an aggregator, you have better inputs. You can go ahead.
So there are a number of benefits for larger enterprises to adopt co-working spaces. One thing is they have to incur lower capex. So a lot of operators are willing to incur the capex on behalf of the larger clients, and then they kind of amortize that over the duration of the lease. So capex reduction is one thing. Cost reduction is another big advantage of using a hybrid model or using flex spaces. So, for instance, if I talk about Bombay, if a company has a headquarter in BKC, for instance, and they're giving up about 20 to 30% or 2 or 3 floors in BKC, and they're taking up distributed offices that are closer to the employee. So, for instance, they take up some space in Thana or they take up some space in Navi Mumbai. You are automatically saving on real estate costs. Right? There's a differential between what real estate would cost in BKC and what it would cost in Thana and Navi Mumbai or Malad and so on and so forth. So there's a cost reduction there, cost optimization. That's another benefit. Historically, offices have been used as a tool to recruit top talent. And in addition to that, now I think to attract talent, companies are going to have to offer that flexibility, where people are not so willing to commute 3 or 4 hours a day and come to one central location. They'd much rather just walk down to the a distributed or a satellite office of their company, and save on that time and be a little more productive from that standpoint. So companies that offer that kind of flexibility and that kind of freedom to their employees, I think are going to be able to attract and retain top quality talent. Another thing that happened because of the pandemic is that overnight, suddenly you couldn't access the office anymore. So a lot of companies were not prepared for that. So it does create some sort of a business continuity risk when you are working out of one centralized location. Today, if one location shuts down and you have a full distributed network of offices, you can still work out of some of the satellites. So that is another advantage of adopting a hybrid model. And as the nature of work has changed, the physical workspace has to kind of move in a similar direction to that. So those are, I believe, some of the biggest advantages of for corporates and larger companies to be using flex spaces and to be adopting a hybrid workspace model.
Okay, Umesh. Tejasa, you give your viewpoint. You must be approaching a lot of enterprises, corporates. They are rethinking on Fluxo Spaces.
Yes, absolutely. So I think the co-working spaces that attracts approximately 60 to 70%. They have Fortune 500 companies or SMEs that are established. Then the count goes like 20-30% are startups. But who are funded startups probably, and then the 10% of the clients are usually the startups who are just starting their journey. So when I talk about the larger chunk, which is 60% or 70% of SMEs and Fortune 500 companies, I think that ratio has definitely increased because the corporates, who were working out of this traditional offices are now considering co-working spaces. So if you look why they are choosing co-working spaces is because companies are still giving their employees an option to work from home, but working from home is not a feasible option to look for a longer period. And then the second is I was talking to one of our clients as well. He says that my work is getting done. So he leads a tech company. He says that my work is getting done, but if I imagine all my 20 employees sitting in at one place, probably I would be coming up with different product altogether. So I think productivity has hampered a bit for all these companies, and that is why they are planning to come back. And the third thing is they want to go light on this model. So probably they have 100 employees working for them, but right now they only want to probably call 30 employees. And they don't want to invest into all these assets and going into this traditional thing called rentals and all those things. So they are pretty much exploring this co-working option. So I think this new chunk which is exploring this co-working space is going to increase this year, and is going to stay for long, for next couple of years at least.
Thank you, Tejas sir. Tushar, you tell me, you must have dealt with a lot of corporates, how they are rethinking on the flex spaces, strategies, Deloitte.
Sir, what has happened is that a lot of motions were set into, a lot of things were set into motion once WeWork started becoming big. So, it's also to do with the nature of the job market. So, we have digital nomads, we have freelancers, we have gig workers, and, people need a cost-effective, a community-based, a well-structured, working and living spaces. What happens in a capitalist economy is that they want to make the most out of everything. And so, even any kind of spaces which can add value, one starts looking at it from the perspective of resource generation. Even in advanced or rather matured economies, we see that even prayer halls are taken down if they are not being used. And the same is not possible with old culture countries because of, obvious factors. So one of the statistics of US by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, it says that approximately 40% of the total workforce, which means around 65 million Americans, will be freelancers, independent contractors, and solopreneurs. It's not shocking to see that, because America is a hire and fire country, and being a totally capitalist economy, where if the going is not good, you are free to hire and fire. You are free to fire people. But also another factor driving this phenomena is that millennials, they want a fun and social workplace. They want flexible working hours, and they place value on lifestyle and traveling. On the other side, as was discussed on this panel a little while ago, that companies want to outsource the management of their real estate. And that has been a phenomena since many years now, with companies like PEC, Regus, ARCC, and others. But what has been different from a co-working business vis-a-vis the traditional serviced office is in the typical setup. Like co-working is open spaces, exposed ceiling, and also the culture. It is more open, collaborative, casual, lively, and also the property type can be a converted pub or a converted warehouse, any space which can fetch value. And also the cost, it's more membership fee based, and it also works as an equity generator in startups. So we have co-working spaces who give out their co-working space for a year, and in return of the co-working space, along with Wi-Fi and printing and other such facilities, they can also take equity in startups. So I have personally seen a lot of these clients who like to use such facilities, and instead of a cash burn, they like to give a small equity, because they are still trying out their business, and they are not still sure how it will pan out. Another aspect is that startups find it very difficult to find an office space and setting up the necessary infrastructure. And landlords are usually interested in long-term leases, so it is more convenient. It offers a lot of flexibility, and also the 9 to 5 jobs are so rare nowadays. I mean, we have it's more like a space which is a physical social network, and that's what, in spite of the fall of WeWork, that's a cultural shift which has happened, and that's how investors also see this space.
Okay, Tushar, thank you. So based on the inputs from all the founders, so everyone is bullish on the flex spaces, which is expected to increase the occupancy, the entire seat setup, maybe customized spaces, you could say. So I have the next question related to that. I want just a one-liner answer, because again, it related to flex spaces. Do venturing into flex spaces will accelerate revenue for the co-working operators who were still affected by the pandemic? Mesh?
I think, Shalva, if you just include yourself, there's a coming up. Yes, thank you. So, Rajanji, if I understood the question correctly, does it make financially viable model for a co-working space to venture out into flex spaces? Is that the question?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I think primarily co-working spaces is operating as flex spaces only. I mean, it's just a term which kind of changes across in terminology, in a slang, in city to city, state to state. But if I see it from in hindsight, co-working is what flex space is, right? It's a flexibility that you provide on top of real estate to the end user. That typically defines a co-working and a flexible office space. In terms of financial viability and model, if let's say if there's a startup who's venturing out today to start something fresh from ground zero, I think that is a tough road ahead, because primarily what enterprises, since you're looking to now cater, since the world is now moving to cater enterprise clients, they would obviously see a history of that organization. They would obviously want a sustainability quotient. They would obviously want a phase of these operators who would have passed through COVID, just to ensure that the longevity of they getting a service from a service provider is for the duration that they are signing up for, and do not land up into some troubles by aligning with a younger or just a fresh entity. So that wouldn't make sense. But if you ask me, if an old organization who was not growing faster pre-COVID, I think this is the right time to kind of scale up and expand in multiple cities, but in a differentiated product offering. Either it could be in terms of aligning with the developers who are now struggling to sell off their inventory directly, because the enterprises are now of the opinion that they would get proper services or solutions from a flexi space provider rather than a developer themselves. So it is imperative for developers to get on ground and align with operators and partner with them, and then kind of provide the end solution to the enterprise client rather than doing it on their own, or probably getting on the ground on their own. So that makes sense. Or from an operator's perspective, it can be 100% viable model if they start catering only to the enterprise clientele. When they invest on their own in terms of fit outs, they have a larger lock-in coming in from the developers, which we are into. That kind of slightly increases the bottom line for you and also gives the confidence to the enterprise that the investment is going from the books and not from the developers.
Okay. Thank you. Vivek, you tell me, you must be getting a lot of inquiries from corporates, venturing into, or startups venturing into flex spaces.
Right. So,
What is your opinion?
personally, it's very hard to distinguish what is a flex space and what is co-working. So our brand name is Flexo, and that kind of stands for flexible office. So that encompasses co-working as well as flex spaces. But if you were to really nitpick and segregate, where you define flex as something that is hot desking and co-working as larger requirements, I think it will come down to what niche do you want to carve for yourself, and what do you really want to stand for. I think while enterprise is the most lucrative segment out there, the kind of investment and infrastructure and data security and those kind of things that are required, some of the smaller operators may not be able to cater to those demands. Also, enterprises are looking for operators that have a widespread presence across cities. So it really depends on the kind of niche you want to target, and the kind of community and the kind of vibe that you want to build. So that's my take on this.
Okay, Vivek. So Tejasa, you tell me, how do you plan to address this issue?
So as I understand, flex spaces for enterprises will be a big companies coming to you and saying that let's not work on per seat cost, let's work on per square feet basis, and they would probably be asking you that by this month, this year we'll be occupying probably 300 seats, and going forward we need a space where we can occupy other 200 seats. So in that case, I think this demand is definitely going to increase, and I think this is a very good opportunity to explore for co-working space. Co-working space can definitely work it this way with the landlord as well, because what we see that to accommodate growing demand of hybrid work, we also see partnership between landlord and operators. So I think going forward, a lot of flex spaces will also be coming up.
Especially I ask you, like, it is seat based, cabin based. Now it is becoming customized space. So how much you plan to expand into the customized space area, because corporates are coming in more?
Absolutely, and that definitely makes sense because major chunk of your operational expenses or your capital expenses are taken care of. What remains with you is some space, and you can utilize this space as a co-working space till that client or enterprise plans to take up.
Okay, Tushar. Tushar, you tell me your point of view.
Sir, I can only offer a macro perspective, not directly into this business, but having seen number of companies from this space. So post-COVID, there are inherent challenges which employees or the workforce, they feel like distractions are at home, and unavailability of right infrastructure like high-speed internet, printer, desk space, and lack of social interactions and peer-to-peer engagements. So there is a significant loss in productivity, and this is what is prompting more and more companies to explore work near home. So basically allowing employees to work remotely out of shared spaces while having access to effective office infrastructure. So co-working space is definitely the right real estate solution. It's a hassle-free management. It's an ideal platform for members to leverage business opportunities. And with so many diverse companies sitting next to each other, the interactions are seamless and collaborations are in plenty. And also, instead of one big office space, there will be more distributed small offices. Also, sir, I've seen that a lot of companies, especially from my experience in the city region, they prefer to have tier 2 and tier 3 workforce, because these people are more hungry. They are more, they are more, they have more aspirations, and hence, these distributed small offices makes sense for a lot of service companies as well. I take the example of Zoho, which has an office at Tenkasi in Tamil Nadu, and it is from that office that their product Zoho Desk was built and launched. And Zoho became the first Indian company bootstrapped, reaching a unicorn status. And this shows the power of globally local. So so my sense is that also asset light is the way ahead. Just like Oxford co-working spaces made a co-living deal with the lovely professional university and took off the asset from their books. So all these factors and increased return as compared to a rental return of 2 to 3%, 9 to 10% return, and shared economy is the future, shared spaces is the future. So I'm very bullish on this space.
Thank you, Tushar. So I want to ask the panelists, each one of you. See, work from home is a new norm. So how it is contributing to your business? How much it is contributing? Umesh, just few lines.
Again, it's again understanding the question. Work from home is making an impact on non-usage of the office space. Right.
How much it contributes to your business for the new norm?
So, so the first 2 quarters post-COVID, after the lockdown, we had launched a product which was a work from home pod, and that picked up like anything for us. So we had designed a unique product which kind of fits into each and every corner of the Indian households. So typically, if you see, Indian households are not meant and designed to cater each and every individual to work from home with their laptops or desktops. It is very difficult to kind of focus. It is very difficult to kind of keep away the younger ones from the systems, and ultimately ensuring that they do not fade away in the taking an afternoon nap after a lunch. So since they are not designed in that manner, we thought we'll contribute in a smaller way by designing a work from home pod, wherein which picked up like anything for us, and we had sold off roughly 110 units in the first 2 months of the launch phase, and it was typically deployed in an Indian household which is a 2 BHK or a 3 BHK, and the majority of the people staying there is a working population. So we kind of attributed and aligned as to what was need of the hour then. Now, and as on date, today, what we are sensing from our existing clientele is that majority of the people are willing and intending to come back. If not today, definitely by May or June 2021. The fade or the glamour of working from home, the pros and the advantages attached to it, which was highlighted by majority of the listed entities in India for different reasons, obviously, is kind of fading away. People are now kind of stuffed by sitting and working within their 4 confined walls without having a social engagement and interaction. It is now hitting the productivity. It is now started, putting back on the challenges that are aligned with the remote workforce, and hence people are now coming back to offices. Obviously, I wouldn't say that it is 100%. It is not 50% as on date. But the talks have been initiated. The larger enterprises of ours have started initiating efforts into a direction when we are sanitizing their spaces, when we are redesigning their spaces. We are putting across technology which enables and empowers the last user, that is their employee, to book a space and then come to office rather than just jumping into an office as on date. But that's just inculcating the habit of using the office space, which over a period of time, in just 3 to 4 months of time frame, what I personally sense, would be a scenario wherein people would be consuming offices in a larger front. The fact of the matter would still remain that the organizations have now understood the ground reality that you don't need to consume 100% real estate as per your employee strength. It can be partially rotational in nature. It can be hot desking as well. So if you have a workforce of 700, you can keep an office space which can accommodate 500 people at a single go. The remaining can be rotated in need. So that is what has kind of added upon after the work from home era.
Okay, Umesh, thank you. Vivek, you
So
must be getting inquiries.
I think work from home has been a mixed bag. I mean, for some it has worked well, for others it has not worked at all. If I were to talk about my personal situation, I was discussing with some of you backstage. So we had a daughter in the middle of the pandemic, and it's very hard. It was very hard for me to kind of focus with her being around, because I you just want to spend some time with her when you're at home. So I tried working from home for a couple of months, and then it really didn't work for me personally. And I found that I was far more productive when I have a dedicated space to work out of, where I don't have any distractions, so I can do deep, focused work. Um, and as Umesh rightly pointed out, right, our houses are not really designed to accommodate so many people working from home. And it's not just work from home, right? There's school from home happening at the same time. So if you're living in a 2 BHK and you're a husband and wife with 2 kids, there are 2 kids that are doing school from home, both husband and wife working, doing work from home. Where are you going to sit? So it creates a lot of challenges in terms of physical space. Having said that, it really depends on the situation. Some people are like, I never want to go back to the office 5 days a week or 6 days a week. I can't stand the traffic. I can't stand the commute. I can't stand some of the people that I work with. But if I were to bet, I think some sort of a hybrid model where people are going to office maybe 2 or 3 times a week and then working either from home or working near home the rest of the time. I think something like that is likely to emerge out of this whole scenario.
Thank you, Vivek. Tejasai, tell me how work from home is contributing to your business?
Yes, sir. So let me just admit that in first quarter, I short-sighted the impact of COVID-19. I missed out on the opportunity to monetize this, work from home concept. But going forward, I realized that this is what is going to last for at least a year, and that is why we came up with a lot of online events, which we conducted for a lot of companies individually and as well as through Trios portal as well. So more or less, I think it was short term. Companies are more likely to come, and as I say, companies are coming here already and attending all the events, sitting and attending from their events.
Okay, Tejasai. Tushar, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me your viewpoint, how work from home is contributing in this space.
Sir, look at the dot-com burst of 99, then look at 2008 Lehman crisis, and now COVID. These are all black swan events. And the one common thread running across all these events is the march of technology. The smartphone, the stickiness of the smartphone, the march of technology right through our homes and our offices. And it is only because of this digital transformation, and especially in India because of Jio, more than 90% reduction in data prices. It is because of those factors that work from home is succeeding. So, I know this guy who works in a New Zealand-based venture capital firm. He puts up in India. So he was perpetually for months living in a sleepy town in the Himalayas and using Jio Wi-Fi and easily So it's I feel that like my kids, they study in a convent school, very conservative school, and the school was forced to adopt technology and all those digital transformations. So I feel that work from home is here to stay, but it won't be a pure phenomena. As the others pointed out, Umesh, Vivek, and Tejasa, that it will be a mix and match of partial office, partial home, and the trend was already there. The writing was already there on the wall with multinational companies like General Electric treating office hours as a cost, and and hence shared spaces, work from home, co-living spaces. All these are here to stay, as per my estimation.
Thank you, Tushar.
Thank
So
you.
we are come to the final summarizing the sessions, and the concluding note is I want to ask you all, through your eyes, you are foreseeing the emerging co-working space challenges post-COVID world. What do you foresee post-COVID world challenges? Just few lines.
So,
The challenges you're going to force.
shall I take this question, Rajanji?
Yeah.
So the challenges, the foremost challenges which I foresee is, I mean, I'm discounting the external forces
One
of
second.
challenges.
Yes, sir. All the speakers, could you put up the speakers your side, because there is a lot of disturbance coming in. If you could reduce the volume of your speakers, it will be good. Yeah. Go
Right.
ahead.
So I'll discount the external environmental challenges that might come up. I mean, a different variant of COVID hitting the country again. I'm kind of negotiating and discounting that portion within our discussion. The internal challenges which I foresee from an industry perspective. Um, what I strongly believe is that there's a dearth of capital or wealth into this system. So that is the first and foremost challenge which I see, wherein the other countries have kind of picked up from the larger set of PE real estate funds entering themselves into the market to provide this solution. The primary reason of that is the real estate market in India is still not in terms of organized apart from the primary tier one cities. So there's still that cash and white component entering into this space, which is largely dominating in the tier two cities. And that is a primary reason or primary challenge where the majority of the PE real estate funds do not enter the organized sector. If they are not entering the space, I do not see majority of the wealth entering the system. So lack of availability of financial resources, I think that is one of the major challenge which I foresee, because since this is a real estate, primarily a subdivision of a real estate, there has to be a strong pipeline and flow of capital into the system. That is the first thing that I foresee. Secondly, what I foresee that this can be a short-lived phenomenon. We are, as you would start hearing people, this is a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year plan. But an industry does not work in that manner, right? And it has to be 10, 15, 20 years horizon, what sustainability should focus upon. That currently is not visible to me. What I foresee that there's a strong movement coming out of the organizations going to directly to developers, and they are getting their requirements routed through operators, routed through flex space providers. How long requirement is that? I think that is yet to be tested on ground. So once I think these two things get sorted out, I think majority of the challenge would wave off. There are obviously operational challenges in terms of the capability to serve as to what you are committing, but those can be trained upon, those can be learned as the entire hospitality has evolved over the years. I think this can be eventually learned as well. But I think the primary two challenges would be lack of availability of financial capital in corpus as it is available to the larger real estate, the formal real estate segment. It is not available to the mid-sized co-working operators. And the second would be how sustainable is this wave of change which is happening.
Thank you, Umesh. Vivek, you tell me your point of view.
I think I completely agree with Umesh on this. I think access to capital is one of the largest challenges that the industry faces today, and I think a large part of that comes from co-working is still not being recognized as a legitimate asset class. And I think once the industry matures and hopefully gets cleaned up, that perspective and that perception might change. Another thing is that this is a highly competitive industry. So we have about 300 plus operators in the industry. And when you have so many people competing for the same pie, it gets very difficult to differentiate your offering. So another big challenge is in that, in terms of how are you differentiating yourself from the competitor? What are you offering besides the physical infrastructure, in terms of the community, in terms of other intangible benefits, in terms of design? What are you doing over there? So those are some of the challenges I foresee in the future.
Thank you, Vivek. Tejasa, you're here. What do you
Yes.
foresee the emerging co-working space challenges, market challenges?
Looking at the individual co-working space point of view, I think optimum use of space, which we talked about, the social distancing is something that we all need to follow. And how we design a co-working space is we dedicate a certain square feet area to each client. That way I think how we are going to optimize the use of office space will be a challenge. And apart from that, as Vivek said, that there'll be we see that there'll be a lot of co-working spaces entering into this entering into this industry. So how we are going to how we are going to keep up with it is also another thing that we need to look here. So I think these are the two aspects we need to work on in future.
Tushar, your point of view? The emerging co-working challenges in this sector. I mean, what do you feel they are going to be the future challenges? Just few words.
The biggest challenge is actually how to find well-paying customers, considering that all these social distancing norms are still there, and also that now people are more used to work from home kind of environment, which was earlier not so much, and herd mentality used to drive people to office nonetheless, but now even the most conservative of companies became used to work from home. I feel making spaces less dense would be a challenge for co-working investors in the co-working space. It is actually very sad that it was WeWork, because it is in this space and it had the IPO which got devolved. It is very sad that that happened in this space, because as an investor I see this space as very promising. And I having spoken to a lot of people who work out of co-working spaces, clearly they find it much better than regulated, high-nosed, formal offices, and that's a culture shift. I feel that new business models will evolve to accommodate this changed culture and behavior and all these factors. And I'm sure businesses will cater to this shift in not only social norms but also cultural norms.
Thank you, Tushar.
Thank you, sir.
So we come to the end of this session. To summarize, we found that co-working is going to remain and grow, and flex spaces, customized spaces are going to occupy more in the co-working segment. And when enterprises and corporates are more focusing on the customized spaces segment, funding is not problem. Funding will definitely come in the segment. So thank you for all of you. We look forward to your growth. All the best. And thank you for all of you giving your insights. Thank you.
Thank you for having me here, Raju.
Thank you, Mr. Raj.
Thank you, Umesh. Thank you, Vivek. Tejasa. Thank you, Tushar.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.